Martin Scorsese crying, Bryan Cranston back in his element, and the things studio execs are too afraid to say in public.
I'm sorry, I love lesbians, but white women are the worst right now. They're so toxic.
Apple's The Studio, starring Seth Rogen, is a blistering satire of modern-day Hollywood. With more cameos than a Christopher Nolan movie, this 10-episode season gives us a first-hand look at the inner workings of a Hollywood studio exec. So I thought it would be fun to take a deep dive into the season and what might be next for Continental Studios. But before we begin, make like the Kool-Aid Man and smash that like and subscribe button, because here we go.
Oh yeah!
The studio follows Matty Remick, the newly appointed head of struggling Continental Studios. Under the leadership of its former boss, Patty Lee, Continental has faced 10 straight bombs at the box office, so slightly better than Marvel. This prompts CEO of Continental's parent company, a man by the name of Griffin Mill, to give her the axe. He wants to give Matty the job, but has one big concern.
You're obsessed with actors and directors liking you, rather than being obsessed with making this studio as much money as possible.
Ever since he was a kid, Matty has wanted to be a studio head.
Being the head of Continental is the only job I've ever wanted.
And now it's within his grasp. So he lies to his boss, promising to focus on making the studio money by producing mindless blockbusters with little to no artistic merit. This is in contrast to his vision of building a studio that pumps out films that are both critically praised and box office hits.
They're gonna have to write new posts and new articles about what a genius I am. That's the dream!
The example he uses is Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, a film that grossed over $300 million and was nominated for multiple Oscars. But it's Matty's desire to be liked by everyone that becomes his, and by extension, the studio's biggest flaw, and one that might lead to Matty's biggest fear, that he'll destroy movies in the process.
You know, I love movies, but now I have this fear that my job is to ruin them.
In order to please others, Matty builds his studio on a house of lies. This is evident in episode 1 when he tells Griffin he'll make a Kool-Aid movie, but gives the project to Martin Scorsese to make an art piece about Jonestown. Other examples include when he shows up on the set of Sarah Polley's new film wanting to help, but only ends up ruining their one shot at, well, a one shot. Or how about when he offers to pay $200,000 for a charity golf trip, but ends up taking that trip from his partner's coworkers who really wanted to go? Hollywood is all about perception, what people think of you, so what better person to be the main character of this show than someone who's obsessed with how people think of them? In this way, the studio becomes a critique of Hollywood itself, and how, instead of focusing on creating art, it boils down to how that art will be perceived. There's no better encapsulation of this than episode 7's casting debacle, in which our group of predominantly white studio execs spend the entire day debating whether having a black actor play the Kool-Aid Man is racist. Ultimately, they end up recasting the entire thing, which results in every character being black, only accentuating the very thing they tried to avoid in the first place. It speaks to how tone-deaf Hollywood can be in an effort to appease. I would even go so far as to say Matty's desire to create great films is complete bullshit. It's a lie he tells himself to cover up what he really wants, to be loved and admired by others. There's no better example of this than Zoe Kravitz's acceptance speech at the Golden Globes in episode 8. Matty was responsible for greenlighting the picture that wins Zoe her award, and he's obsessed with being thanked by her.
I'm not needy. I just need to be thanked tonight.
He even tries to change her speech already in the teleprompter to include his name. He cares more about him being acknowledged in front of his peers in the world than his movie's success. We'll see him enter his limo at the end, visibly upset that his movie won, but no one heard his name mentioned.
Your movie lost? No, it won.
By the season's final episode, all of Matty's work culminates in Continental's presentation at CinemaCon. This is a huge event to create buzz surrounding the slate of the studio's upcoming projects, and the stakes couldn't be higher.
If this presentation doesn't go perfectly, I will be the last studio head in the history of Continental.
The day before the event, Matty is told that Continental might be sold to Amazon, putting all their jobs in jeopardy. But if they knock it out of the park with the presentation, Amazon will have no choice but to keep the studio afloat. The night before, however, Matty, in an effort to please those around him, lays out an old-school Hollywood drug buffet with drugs that are way more powerful than he imagined, leaving their star presenters Dave Franco and Zoe Kravitz, as well as Continental CEO Griffin Mill, blitzed out of their minds. So once again, we have ourselves in a situation where Matty is trying to please others, but it ends up biting him in the ass. Now, Dave Franco, who's hopped up on cocaine and was just beat up by a bunch of dudes thinking he used magic to cheat at cards because he was in that magic movie, comes out on stage all beat up. But this ends up being perfect because his film, Ron Howard's Alphabet City, is all about a dude who gets beat up by some gangsters, so the audience thinks he's just dressing up for the part. Zoe, who moments before getting on stage was saying this,
"It's okay, we're skin sausages."
Skins what?
Skin sausages.
absolutely kills her introduction of the next big superhero film, Blackwing. But the big dilemma is, what are they going to do about Griffin Mill? As head of the company, he was supposed to deliver a big speech, but the man is zooted out of his mind. Luckily, Patty is able to stall talking about her project Silver Lake, which was the Sarah Polley directed art film we saw in episode 2. This is the episode all about doing a shot in one take, and the episode itself is also shot in one take. It's all very meta. For those of you paying close attention, you'll remember that Sarah asked Matty for extra money to use the Rolling Stones song You Can't Always Get What You Want. Initially, it didn't seem like Matty was going to fork over this money, but since he royally screwed up their one take while doing a set visit, it looks like he relented because the song that plays when Patty introduces the film is You Can't Always Get What You Want. Now, everything boils down to Griffin's speech. But the guy can't even get up, and there's no way they're going to wheel him out in a wheelchair. So they come up with this ingenious idea to switch him with the Kool-Aid Man who is going to descend from the rafters. It turns out to be a tremendous success, with Matty leading the crowd in a thunderous call and response, chanting movies. They've survived CinemaCon, but now they have to follow through with these films, all of which could turn out to be disasters. If we're to believe Patty, Silver Lake will be her Oscar winner, but we never find out if they did get to reshoot that pivotal final scene. Alphabet City seemed to be a big hit until the execs saw its agonizingly long final act. However, Ron Howard said he would cut it from the film. Nightwing isn't shot yet, but looks like it'll already be insanely over budget. Then there's the biggie, the Kool-Aid movie. This could make or break the studio. In episode 7, we learned that they were only 4 weeks away from shooting, with a completely new rewrite being needed. Then there's what happened to their leading man, Ice Cube, who walked off stage at Comic-Con when it was discovered the studio had been using AI to generate parts of the film. Is he still attached to the project, and how much harm will this cause for the film? So the end of Season 1 leaves us at a crossroads. Will Matty's leadership of Continental propel them into a new golden age, or will his greatest fear about movies come true?
My job is to ruin them.
With Apple greenlighting the studio for Season 2, we'll just have to wait and see. But what did you think of the studio? I want to hear your thoughts and theories in the comments below. Thanks for watching, be sure to like and subscribe, and for more Bad Takes you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at ThinkStoryYT. Until next time, remember,
Daddy loves you very much.